Andy McCarthy wrote a piece on Saturday, The Obama Camp's Disingenuous Denials on FISA Surveillance of Trump. Now, Andy's been writing about this, shall we say, scandal, uncovered scandal, for months. Trump's tweet on Saturday morning exploded that scandal in front of everybody's face. The fact that the Obama Justice Department and the FBI investigated associates of Trump and likely Trump himself in the heat of a presidential campaign. That is something that we know happened. There isn't any question about it. There isn't any ambiguity about it. It simply wasn't reported in mainstream drive-by circles. In summary, reporting indicates that prior to June of 2016, the Obama Justice Department, the FBI, considered a criminal investigation of Trump associates and maybe even Trump himself, based on concerns about connections to Russian financial institutions. This is June last year. Preliminary investigations by the Obama Justice Department indicated nothing criminal was involved. It's important to remember something here. The FBI has two different kinds of investigations. They do criminal investigations where they go after bad guys, and if they're found guilty, they go to jail or pay a fine. They lose their liberty, lose their freedom. It's criminal. The other thing the FBI does is related to national security. And there's nothing criminal about that. Now, the president is not constitutionally permitted to interfere in criminal investigations. That would be very unethical. In some cases, the president has no right to know. But when it comes to national security, like seeking a FISA warrant, or whenever the DOJ, the FBI are doing anything related to national security, the president has every right to know about it. He runs the executive branch. National security is his bailiwick. Now, the left is trying to confuse people by conflating these two different types of investigations and claim, well, Obama couldn't have known. Presidents can't get involved in criminal. This is not criminal. Obama could very well have known about every stage of whatever was done to Trump. He could have ordered it. He could have requested it. He could have asked for it with plausible deniability. Or he could have been told about it after somebody else instigated it. But it's not prohibited that he know when it comes to national security, what the FBI is doing and the DOJ in that area. So here's the thing. After this first investigation in June, which was again investigating whether or not Trump or his associates had been involved with Russian financial institutions. That investigation went nowhere. It found nothing. Instead of shutting the case down, the Obama Justice Department converted it. They converted it into a national security investigation. You see, it starts criminal, nothing there. So then they said, you know what? We're going to make this a national security. Then they went to the FISA court. Let me take a break. I'll pick it up at that point. Don't go away. Now, back to the timeline of the FISA warrants, because this gets to the nub and the substance of this. Again, prior to June 2016, the reporting indicated that the Obama Justice Department and the FBI considered a criminal investigation of Trump associates, maybe even Trump himself, based on concerns that there had been connections between Trump people and Russian banks. Criminal investigation, different from national security investigations, in that criminal investigation, the White House can't get involved. That's unethical. They're not allowed to know. They can't intercede. That's not supposed to happen. We know it does. But on the other side, national security investigations, the president can be involved, can often order them and direct them, and that's why that's important. So they looked around after they got their warrant to look into whether Trump and his associates had been involved with Russian banks. They found nothing. Nothing criminal. So rather than just stop and say, okay, end of story, the Obama Justice Department then converted it into a national security investigation under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which has its own court, the FISA court. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act allows the government, if it gets court permission, and permission is almost always granted, which is a key point here. If it gets permission, the government is allowed to conduct electronic surveillance, which includes wiretapping, monitoring of email, which is what happened to James Rosen at Fox News, and things similar. And they can do this against people they allege are agents of a foreign power. FISA dates back to Jimmy Carter. It's that recent. So the criminal investigation into whether or not Trump had done anything with banks in Russia, zip, zero, nada there. So they said, okay, well, let's go to the FISA court and let's get a warrant and let's see if we can wiretap. Let's see if we can monitor emails. And now these FISA applications and the evidence garnered from them are classified. We wouldn't know about any of this unless somebody had leaked information, which is a felony. If you know anything about this, it's because somebody has created a felony, committed a felony. So in June of last year, the Obama DOJ submitted an application that named Trump in addition to his associates. Now, McCarthy writes that it's unclear whether named in this context indicates that Trump himself, cited as a person the DOJ was alleging was a Russian agent that it wanted to surveil. It could have meant that Trump's name was merely mentioned on the application that sought to conduct surveillance on other alleged Russian agents, meaning Americans who are Russian agents. Trump's tweet Saturday claimed that President Obama tapped my phones. Now, Trump's not just throwing this against the wall to see if it sticks, more than likely. And the fact that he said Obama tapped my phones makes it more likely that Trump was targeted for surveillance rather than merely mentioned, again, back in June in the first FISA application. But guess what? In something of a real rarity, it hardly ever happens, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court turned down the Obama Justice Department request. That never happens. The FISA court, this is one of the criticisms of the FISA court, is that it's a rubber stamp. That you can go in there and ask them to surveil Elmer Fudd. And between bites of pizza, the judge said, yeah, go for it. They turned it down, meaning, folks, that whatever evidence they presented the court for justifying surveilling Trump was so limited and thin and maybe non-existent that they were refused their warrant to surveil Trump in June. So 2 times in June, the DOJ investigates Trump for activities he and his associates with Russian banks. The first was a criminal investigation in June that went nowhere. Rather than pack up and go home, they went to the FISA court and said, hey, we want to look at this as a national security. That'll let us wiretap. The FISA court turned them down 2 times. The Obama Department of Justice, which means Obama. Now, Obama can't do the same thing in a criminal probe, but since it's foreign national security, not only can he know about it, he can direct it. So, turned down twice, we are now. The Obama Justice Department went back to the FISA court in October, a month before the election. And this time, they submitted a narrow application that did not mention Trump. We know that these 2 FISA attempts were made and that this one was granted. The drive-by media has reported on this. It isn't a mystery. That's one of the things that's kind of funny about this. They're acting like they don't know anything that this is about, and they've reported all of this. Their leakers have given them information of what's in these things. That's why anybody knows about any of this. At any rate, the FISA court approved, they granted the application authorizing surveillance of some of Donald Trump's associates. This is back in October, in the weeks leading up to the election. It could still be underway for all we know. We don't know that it's ever ended. They could still be surveilling Trump associates. The Department of Justice, a lot of Obama people are still there. They could still be surveilling Trump, quote-unquote, associates, trying to find what is impossible to find, evidence that Trump screwed with the Russians in the elections. The New York Times identified 3 of the targets that this FISA warrant was granted. Paul Manafort, former Trump campaign chairman who was ousted in August, and 2 others. One was Roger Stone and the other Carter Page. Stone is a gadfly, a political consultant, and Carter Page is an investor. The New York Times report, again, we're back now, this is in January, good old Michael S. Schmidt here, concedes that this FISA investigation may actually have nothing to do with Trump. Remember, the first request was not granted, and it mentioned Trump. The second request in October, they were granted the warrant, which allowed them to surveil and wiretap and all that, but it didn't mention Trump. And the New York Times reported that this investigation may have nothing to do with Trump or the campaign or alleged Russian efforts to interfere. And this is the kind of thing that this appears in a story about the Russians hacking the election. Complete with the headline, it's the latest information, and if you dig deep, this is where they report there's nothing here. And in fact, not only is there nothing, we don't know that that's still the target. Yet they won't give up the story. And that's why I claim to you raw hatred, raw politics is behind this. So here comes a statement. After Trump's tweet on Saturday, here comes a statement from Kevin Lewis of the Obama team. A cardinal rule of the Obama administration was that no White House official ever interfered with any independent investigation led by the Department of Justice. Now, as you know, because I've explained it to you, a lot of wiggle room in that. It's probably true that no White House official ever interfered with an independent criminal investigation, but he didn't specify. If it's a national security investigation, they had to be all over it, almost as a matter of law, because it's the president's bailiwick. So Kevin Lewis continues, as part of that practice, neither President Obama nor any White House official ever ordered surveillance on any U.S. citizen. Any suggestion otherwise is simply false. Okay, but it doesn't mean that no one ordered surveillance. He didn't say the surveillance wasn't ordered. He just said Obama didn't do it, not that it wasn't ordered. Well, here's the thing. As anybody who lives and breathes in this stuff knows, the FISA court orders surveillance, not Obama, not the president. He has to go get permission from the FISA court. And as I say, it's almost routinely granted. And also, as a matter of statutory law, it's the Justice Department and not the White House that represents the government before the FISA court. Now, when you have the Obama administration and a corrupt DOJ, it's the same thing as Obama being up there. But technically, the administration doesn't go argue for their warrant. The DOJ does. This Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, depending on timing, this would have been Loretta Lynch. So the issue isn't whether Obama or some member of his staff ordered surveillance of Trump and his associates. Here are the issues. Whether the Obama Justice Department sought such surveillance from the FISA court. B, whether, if the Justice Department did that the White House was aware of it or complicit in it. And given the explosive, controversial nature of the surveillance request we're talking about, which is an application to wiretap the presidential candidate of the opposition party, some of his associates during the heat of the campaign, it seems there's less than zero chance that could have happened without the consultation between the Department of Justice and White House. In other words, if you're going to surveil the Republican presidential candidate at the Department of Justice, are you going to do that without Obama knowing it? Are you going to do it without Obama telling you to do it? The idea that Obama wasn't involved here, according to their statements, I think it's bohunk.